Alien girl pleaded, "Pretend to hug me," not knowing he was a human billionaire magnate. The spires of Lumina City pierced the alien sky like glittering needles, their surfaces ablaze with holographic advertisements that painted the evening in electric blues and pinks. Talia next stepped off the hover tram, her pale turquoise skin catching the neon glow as she clutched her admission letter to the Galactic Science Academy. Now, the document represented everything: her dreams, her future, her escape from the rural outskirts of Proxima 9. Her delicate fingers traced the embossed seal as she navigated through the dense crowd of various alien species. Tall, tentacled Mariodians brushed past her, bulky four-armed Krell merchants haggled with customers, and the occasional human, rare in this sector, stood out with their peculiar coloration and bilateral symmetry. "Just one more day," Talia whispered to herself, tucking a strand of snow-white hair behind her ear. Tomorrow she would present herself at the Academy's registration office, pay her tuition, and begin her journey toward becoming the first xenobiologist from her small community. The communicator on her wrist chimed, projecting a small hologram of her father's face. His usually composed features were twisted with distress. The familiar patterns on his turquoise skin darkened with worry. "Talia, my child," he began, his voice cracking. I don't know how to tell you this." Something cold settled in her stomach. "Father, what's wrong?" "They've taken everything." His image flickered as he ran a hand over his face. "Scammers. They used my biometric data somehow. Our savings, your tuition funds. It's all gone." The world around Talia seemed to slow, the neon lights blurring as tears filled her eyes. "But the Academy? My admission? I've filed reports with the Galactic Financial Authority, but they said recovery could take months, if at all." Her father's holographic eyes met hers. "I'm so sorry, Talia. I failed you." The communicator slipped from her trembling fingers, clattering to the pavement at the exact moment a tall figure stopped beside her. Without a word, the stranger, a human male, bent down and retrieved the device, holding it out to her with a steady hand. Talia stared at him through her tears. His face remained impassive, almost unnervingly calm amid her personal catastrophe. He wore an expensive-looking dark suit that contrasted sharply with his white shirt, his chestnut hair neatly styled back. Deep gray eyes regarded her without pity or judgment, just quiet observation. Something broke inside Talia. Without thinking, she stepped forward, her voice cracking as she pleaded, "Please pretend to hug me. I really need this." For a moment, the human remained perfectly still, and Talia feared she'd made a terrible mistake. Then, with surprising gentleness, he wrapped one strong arm around her shoulders, drawing her against his chest. "Thank you," she whispered, allowing herself to melt into the embrace of this stranger, this human whose name she didn't even know. "Christian man," he said quietly, as if reading her thoughts. "And it's no trouble?" Talia didn't know that the name was false. She couldn't know that the man holding her was actually Jason McLaren, owner of McLaren Interstellar, the corporation responsible for humanity's rapid expansion into the galaxy. She couldn't know that the seemingly ordinary human comforting her on a busy Lumina City street was worth more than most planetary economies. All she knew was that for a brief moment, in the arms of a stranger, her world stopped falling apart. Jason, for his part, found himself unexpectedly moved by the alien girl's raw emotion. After years of navigating the calculated manipulations of business rivals and social climbers, her unguarded vulnerability struck him as something precious and rare. "Would you like to sit down somewhere?" he asked, gesturing toward a nearby cafe. "You seem like you could use a moment to collect yourself." Talia pulled back slightly, embarrassment coloring her cheeks a deeper blue. "I'm so sorry. I don't normally accost strangers on the street." "First time for everything," Jason replied with a hint of a smile. "And technically, you didn't accost me. You asked permission first." A small laugh escaped her, surprising them both. "I'm Talia next," she said, wiping away her tears. "And I'd appreciate that seat if the offer still stands." As they walked toward the cafe, neither could have predicted how this chance encounter would alter the course of their lives, or indeed the future of human-alien relations throughout the galaxy. The cafe, named Stellar Brews, according to the holographic sign, buzzed with the gentle hum of diverse alien conversations. Jason guided Talia to a quiet corner booth where prismatic light filtered through a transparent ceiling, casting rainbow patterns across their table. "So," Jason said after ordering 2 cups of the house specialty, "want to talk about what happened back there?" Talia's fingers fidgeted with the edge of her napkin. "It's embarrassing. I came to Lumina City with such high hopes." She looked up, her gray-blue eyes meeting his. "I was accepted to the Galactic Science Academy's xenobiology program, first in my family to pursue higher education." "That's impressive," Jason replied, genuinely intrigued. The GSA was notoriously selective, accepting fewer than 3% of applicants. His company's research division regularly recruited from their graduates. "Was impressive," she corrected, her turquoise skin darkening slightly around her cheeks. "The tuition payment was due tomorrow. Without it, my spot goes to someone else." Their drinks arrived, steaming cups of something that smelled like cinnamon and berries. Jason took a thoughtful sip, studying Talia over the rim of his cup. Her posture remained proud, despite her circumstances, her slender shoulders squared with a resilience that stirred something in him. "How much is the tuition?" he asked casually. 50,000 galactic credits, she replied with a hollow laugh. "Might as well be 50 million for all the good it does me now." Jason suppressed a smile. 50,000 credits was what he spent on a good bottle of wine. For McLaren Interstellar, it was a rounding error. "What if I could help?" The words left his mouth before he fully considered them. Talia's eyes narrowed. "No offense, but why would you help a stranger, especially an alien stranger?" "Perhaps I have a vested interest in scientific advancement," he offered with a slight shrug. "My company funds research grants. I could arrange something." "Your company?" Talia leaned forward, suddenly alert. "I thought you said your name was Christian Mann." Jason silently cursed his slip. "Christian Mann, regional talent scout for Orion Ventures," he improvised smoothly. "We're a small human-owned firm that invests in promising students." Talia studied him with newfound intensity, and Jason found himself unusually affected by her scrutiny. Most beings in the galaxy couldn't hold his gaze for long, whether from intimidation or deference. But she seemed entirely unimpressed by whatever power she sensed in him. "That's convenient," she said, skepticism evident in her tone. "Fortuitous," he corrected with a small smile. "For both of us." Their conversation flowed more easily after that, moving from academic aspirations to cultural differences. Jason found himself fascinated by her perspective on human customs, particularly their physical expressions of emotion. "On Proxima 9, we rarely touch outside of family units," Talia explained. "That's why I was so—" She paused, searching for the word. "Forward?" Jason supplied. "Desperate," she corrected, a hint of vulnerability returning to her expression. "Physical comfort is not something my people typically seek from strangers." "Yet you asked me for a hug," Jason noted, leaning slightly closer. "Hey, I've been studying humans," she admitted, her skin flushing a deeper blue. "Your species seems to derive significant psychological benefit from physical contact during emotional distress." "Is that all it was? Scientific curiosity?" Jason found himself strangely invested in her answer. Talia's gaze dropped to his lips for the briefest moment. "Not entirely." The air between them seemed to charge with unspoken possibility. Jason hadn't felt this kind of genuine attraction in years, perhaps ever. His relationships had always been strategic, calculated. This spontaneous connection with Talia felt dangerously authentic. "Your species is fascinating," she continued, her voice softer. "Humans approach the galaxy with such confidence, despite being relatively new to interstellar society. You're physically weaker than many species, yet you've secured impressive political and economic influence." "We're stubborn," Jason replied with a wry smile, "and adaptable." "And warm," Talia added, her fingertips brushing against his hand with deliberate lightness. "Literally. Your body temperature runs higher than most sentient species." Jason felt an unexpected jolt at her touch. "Is that why you asked me to hug you? For my warmth?" "Perhaps," she answered with newfound boldness. "Would you be opposed to conducting further research on human proximate interactions?" The playful invitation in her voice was unmistakable. Jason found himself responding to her flirtation with an eagerness that surprised him. This wasn't the calculated seduction he was accustomed to. This was something raw and honest. I believe scientific inquiry should always be encouraged, he replied, turning his hand to capture her fingers in his. I have accommodations nearby, more private than a public cafe for detailed studies. Talia's eyes widened slightly, but her fingers remained intertwined with his. That would be acceptable, for research purposes, of course. Of course, Jason echoed, signaling for the bill with his free hand. Purely academic interest. Neither of them believed it for a second. Jason's private suite occupied the entire top floor of an unmarked building at the edge of Lumina City's diplomatic quarter. As the elevator ascended silently, Talia stood close enough that he could feel the subtle heat radiating from her turquoise skin, cooler than a human's, but warmer than he'd expected. This is not what I imagined when you said, accommodations nearby, she remarked, taking in the sophisticated security measures and premium finishes of the elevator. Jason shrugged with practiced nonchalance. Orion Ventures values its talent scouts. The doors opened directly into a spacious living area with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Lumina's 3 moons hung low in the night sky, casting silver light across the polished surfaces of Jason's temporary home. This is beautiful, Talia whispered, moving toward the windows. I've never seen the city from this height. Jason watched her, struck by how perfectly she fit within the frame of his life, her slender silhouette against the backdrop of stars, her white hair catching moonlight. It was a dangerous thought. Drink? He offered, moving to a discreet bar console. Yes, please. She turned to face him, her gray-blue eyes reflecting the city lights. Something human, if you have it. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey, real earth whiskey, not the synthetic variants common in this sector. As he handed her the glass, their fingers brushed, and Jason felt that same unexpected jolt of connection. To scientific inquiry, he said, raising his glass. Talia smiled. 2 unexpected meetings. They drank, and Jason watched her reaction to the unfamiliar taste, the slight widening of her eyes, the delicate movement of her throat as she swallowed. It burned, she said with a surprise, but pleasantly. Humans enjoy sensations that skirt the edge of discomfort, Jason explained, moving closer. It's part of our nature. Fascinating. Talia set down her glass and stepped toward him, eliminating the remaining distance between them. What other human traits should I know about? The air between them seemed charged with potential energy. Jason found himself acutely aware of every detail of her. The subtle pattern of slightly darker turquoise markings along her temples, the way her pulse visibly quickened at the base of her throat. We're tactile creatures, he said, voice dropping lower. We communicate through touch as much as words. Show me, she whispered. Jason reached out, tracing the curve of her cheek with his fingertips. Her skin felt like warm silk beneath his touch, with a subtle texture unlike anything human. Talia's eyes fluttered closed as she leaned into his hand. Your temperature, she murmured. It's intoxicating. When their lips finally met, Jason was unprepared for the intensity of his own response. What began as gentle exploration quickly deepened into something more urgent, more primal. Talia's arms wound around his neck, pulling him closer with surprising strength. Hours later, they lay tangled in the sheets of Jason's bed, the city lights painting patterns across their intertwined forms. Talia's head rested on his chest, her white hair spilling across his skin like liquid moonlight. That was, she began, then laughed softly. I don't think I have the vocabulary in your language. Jason smiled, tracing patterns along the curve of her spine. I believe the traditional human phrase is out of this world. Her laughter vibrated against his chest. How appropriate. In that moment of quiet intimacy, Jason felt an unfamiliar pressure building behind his ribs, the weight of his deception. For the first time in years, he wished he could simply be himself with someone. Not Jason McLaren, billionaire industrialist and architect of humanity's galactic expansion, but just a man. Talia shifted against him, reaching for her communicator on the bedside table. I should call my father, let him know I'm safe. As she activated the device, Jason noticed something unusual. A brief flicker in the holographic display, a momentary distortion that shouldn't have been there. His security training kicked in immediately. "May I see that?" he asked casually. Talia handed him the communicator with a curious expression. "Something wrong?" Jason examined the device carefully, keeping his face neutral as he confirmed his suspicion. The communicator had been compromised with surveillance software far more sophisticated than common scammer tools. "Just checking compatibility with human networks," he lied smoothly, handing it back. "If you're going to be staying on planet for your studies, you might need an upgrade." Talia's expression clouded. "If I'm staying, that's still an if, isn't it?" "Not if I have anything to say about it," Jason replied, making a decision. "I'll contact my company in the morning. Consider your scholarship arranged." Her eyes widened. "Oh, Christian, I can't accept that. You barely know me." "I know enough," he said simply. Talia studied his face for a long moment before leaning in to kiss him again, this time with gentle gratitude rather than passion. "Thank you." As she made her call, speaking to her father in her native language, a melodic stream of sounds Jason's translator only partially processed. He slipped from the bed and moved to his secure terminal in the adjoining office. A quick scan of Talia's communicator's signature revealed what he feared. The surveillance program was military-grade, bearing the digital fingerprints of the Proximan Security Directorate. Why would Proxima 9's intelligence agency be monitoring a student's communications? More troubling was what his system found when he ran Talia's name through his company's private database. Her father wasn't just any Proximan citizen. He was Eldon Neck's Deputy Minister of Interspecies Relations and a vocal opponent of increased human presence in the Proximan sector. Jason leaned back, mind racing. Was Talia aware of the surveillance? Was her chance encounter with him truly accidental? The cynical part of him, the part that had kept him alive and successful in the cutthroat world of interstellar business, whispered warnings. But then he remembered the genuine shock on her face when she received her father's call, the unguarded vulnerability in her eyes when she asked for his embrace. Whatever game was being played here, he suspected Talia wasn't a willing participant. Dawn broke over Luminous City, painting the skyline in hues of amber and rose. Jason stood at the window watching the metropolis awaken while Talia slept peacefully in his bed. Her white hair spilled across his dark sheets like a nebula against the void of space. He'd barely slept, his mind racing with questions and calculations. The encrypted message he'd sent to his security chief, Commander Holt, had received an immediate response. "Investigating, stay put, maintain cover." Typical Holt, efficient to the point of curtness. The former Earth Alliance Special Forces operator had been with Jason since the early days, when McLaren Interstellar was just a fledgling shipping company with 3 retrofitted cargo haulers. Talia stirred, stretching languidly before opening her eyes. When she spotted him by the window, her lips curved into a smile that made his chest tighten. "Good morning," she said, her voice still husky with sleep. "Have you been watching me?" "Just thinking," he replied, moving to sit on the edge of the bed. She reached for his hand, intertwining her fingers with his. About how to get you into that academy. Not entirely a lie. I've sent some messages. We should hear back today." Talia sat up, the sheet falling away to reveal the elegant patterns of slightly darker turquoise that traced across her shoulders and collarbone. Jason found himself momentarily distracted by the memory of tracing those patterns with his fingertips, his lips. "You're really serious about helping me," she said, wonder in her voice. "Why?" Jason tucked a strand of white hair behind her ear, allowing his fingers to linger against her cheek. "Let's just say you've made quite an impression." Her gray-blue eyes searched his face. "Last night was... I don't have much experience with humans, but I suspect what happened between us isn't common." "No," Jason agreed, leaning in to kiss her softly. "It's not common at all." The communicator on his desk chimed with Holt's distinctive tone. "Excuse me," he said, reluctantly breaking away. "Business call." In his office, he activated the secure channel. Holt's weathered face appeared, his expression grim. "Sir, we've identified the surveillance program. It's not just Proximan security. It's been modified with code from the Galactic Financial Authority." Jason frowned. "The same organization investigating the theft from Talia's family?" Yes, sir, but here's where it gets interesting. Holt's image was replaced by financial records. The theft was actually a funds transfer to an account at the Galactic Science Academy, authorized by Deputy Minister Eldon Nex himself. Her father staged the theft? Why? Yeah, we're still piecing that together, but we found connections between Nex and Dean Thorax of the Academy's admissions board. Thorax has been rejecting human applicants for years while accepting less qualified aliens. Jason's mind raced. They're using the Academy for something. Yes, sir, and there's more. The scammer syndicate that supposedly took Nex's money? They're actually a front for an extremist group called Proxima Prime. Anti-human terrorists. And Talia, is she involved? Holt's expression softened slightly. All evidence suggests she's unaware, sir. Her academic credentials are legitimate. Impressive, actually. But her admission came with special conditions from Dean Thorax himself. What conditions? She's been assigned to the Xenobiology Department's Human Physiology Research Team. Jason felt cold realization wash over him. They're using her to gather intelligence on humans. It appears so, sir, and given your interaction with her, you may have become an unwitting data point. Jason glanced toward the bedroom where Talia waited, remembering the genuine wonder in her eyes as they explored each other, the unguarded vulnerability in her expression. No, he said firmly, she's not part of this, at least not knowingly. Sir, with respect. Continue the investigation, Holt. I want everything on Proxima Prime, Dean Thorax, and Deputy Minister Nex. And I want options for extracting Miss Nex safely if necessary. Understood, sir. But may I suggest a more cautious approach to your personal involvement? Jason smiled grimly. Noted, Commander. McLaren out. When he returned to the bedroom, Talia had wrapped herself in one of his shirts and was examining the cityscape from the window. The sight of her in his clothing stirred something possessive in him that he hadn't expected. Everything okay? She asked, turning to face him. Just business, he replied smoothly, moving to stand behind her. He wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her back against his chest as they gazed out at the city. How would you feel about accompanying me to a function at the Galactic Science Academy tonight? She stiffened slightly in his arms. The Academy? Why? Orion Ventures is a donor, he improvised. Annual reception for benefactors. Seems like the perfect opportunity to speak with the admissions board about your situation. Talia turned in his arms, studying his face with those perceptive eyes. You'd do that for me? I told you I'd help, he said, brushing his lips against her forehead. I keep my promises. She melted against him, her arms sliding around his neck. Then yes, I'd love to go, though I have nothing appropriate to wear for such an event. Jason smiled, already formulating plans. Leave that to me. As they shared another kiss, more heated than the last, Jason pushed aside his suspicions and the warnings from Holt. Tonight would reveal the truth about the Academy, about Proxima Prime, and about the woman in his arms whose touch had somehow breached defenses he'd spent a lifetime building. For now, though, he would allow himself this moment of connection, genuine or not. Jason's communicator buzzed again just as Talia disappeared into the bathroom. Commander Holt's face appeared, his expression tense. Sir, we have a situation. Proxima Prime operatives have been tracked to your building. 6 hostiles, heavily armed, in the service elevator. ETA, 3 minutes. Jason's mind shifted instantly to tactical mode. Extraction plan? Team en route, but they're 8 minutes out. Recommend immediate evacuation via emergency protocols. Understood? Keep me updated. Jason ended the transmission and moved swiftly to a seemingly ordinary wall panel. His thumb pressed against it, revealing a hidden compartment containing a compact pulse pistol, emergency credentials, and a portable shield generator. The bathroom door slid open, and Talia emerged wrapped in a towel, her wet white hair clinging to her shoulders. Her smile faded when she saw the weapon in his hand. Christian, what's happening? Jason made a split-second decision. We need to leave, now. There are people coming who want to hurt us. Her gray-blue eyes widened. Hurt us? Why would anyone? I'll explain later, but right now I need you to trust me. He tossed her the clothes she'd worn the previous day. Get dressed, quickly. To her credit, Talia didn't waste time with further questions. She dropped the towel and pulled on her clothing with efficient movements that spoke of unexpected discipline. Jason averted his eyes, focusing on activating the apartment's security protocols. "Ready," she said moments later, her voice steady despite the fear evident in her eyes. Jason took her hand. "Stay close to me. No matter what happens, don't let go." He led her to what appeared to be a closet but was actually an emergency escape route, a private elevator that descended to a secure garage level. As the doors closed behind them, the main elevator to his penthouse pinged its arrival. "Who are they?" Talia asked, her fingers tightening around his. "A terrorist group called Proxima Prime," Jason replied, watching the floor numbers decrease rapidly. "Anti-human extremists." Her skin paled to a lighter shade of turquoise. "From my homeworld? But why would they?" The elevator stopped abruptly, plunging them into darkness before emergency lights activated with a dull red glow. "They've overridden the building systems," Jason muttered, pulling out his pulse pistol. "We're between floors." Talia's breathing quickened. "What do we do?" Jason examined the ceiling panel. "We climb." With practiced movements, he pushed open the emergency hatch and pulled himself up. From above, he reached down for Talia, who jumped with surprising agility to grasp his outstretched hands. And as he pulled her through the hatch, their bodies pressed together in the confined space. Despite the danger, Jason couldn't help but notice how perfectly she fit against him, how her scent, something like citrus and ozone, filled his senses. "Now what?" she whispered, her lips close to his ear. "Maintenance ladder. We'll climb down to the next floor and force the doors open." They descended in silence, and the metal rungs cold beneath their fingers. When they reached the next set of doors, Jason activated his shield generator, creating a shimmering blue barrier around them. "Stand back," he instructed, wedging his fingers into the seam between the doors. With a grunt of effort, he forced them apart, revealing an empty corridor. "This way," he said, taking her hand again as they sprinted toward the emergency stairs. 3 flights down, they heard the heavy footfalls of pursuers above them. Jason pulled Talia into a service corridor, pressing her against the wall as they caught their breath. "You're not just a talent scout, are you?" she asked, her eyes searching his face in the dim light. "No," he admitted, "but I'm not your enemy, Talia. I promise you that." Her fingers touched his cheek gently. "I believe you." The sincerity in her voice made something twist in Jason's chest. He leaned forward, capturing her lips in a fierce kiss that she returned with equal intensity. For a moment, the danger receded, replaced by the electric connection between them. A distant explosion jolted them apart. "They're getting closer," Jason said, checking his weapon. "We need to keep moving." They continued downward, eventually emerging into a maintenance bay where a sleek, unmarked hover car waited. Jason pressed his palm to the scanner, and the vehicle hummed to life. "Get in," he instructed, sliding into the driver's seat. As they accelerated out of the building through a service tunnel, Talia finally asked the question he'd been dreading. "These terrorists, do they have something to do with my father? With the money that was stolen?" Jason kept his eyes on the tunnel ahead. "What makes you ask that?" "The timing. The fact that they found us so quickly." Her voice hardened slightly. "And the way you're avoiding my question." He sighed. "Your father wasn't robbed, Talia. He transferred the money himself to an account at the Galactic Science Academy." She stared at him, shock evident in her expression. "That's impossible. Why would he lie to me?" "I don't know all the details yet," Jason replied carefully, "but I believe he's involved with Proxima Prime and Dean Thorax at the Academy. They're planning something, and they wanted you at the Academy for a specific reason." Talia's face cycled through emotions: disbelief, hurt, anger, before settling into a determined expression that reminded Jason why he'd been drawn to her from the start. "Then let's find out what they're planning," she said firmly, "and stop them." Jason smiled grimly as they emerged from the tunnel onto a busy skyway. "That's exactly what I intend to do." The hover car descended through cloud cover toward what appeared to be an uninhabited stretch of forest on Lumina's outskirts. As they approached, a section of ground slid away, revealing a concealed landing pad. "What is this place?" Talia asked, gripping the edge of her seat. Jason guided the vehicle into the underground hangar, where several human security personnel waited, weapons ready but not aimed. "This," he said as the engines powered down, "is where I stop lying to you." The security team approached, led by a weathered human male with close-cropped gray hair and the bearing of a career military officer. "Sir," the man acknowledged with a nod. "Perimeter secure. No pursuit detected." "Thank you, Holt." Jason turned to Talia, whose expression had shifted from confusion to dawning comprehension. "Sir," she repeated. "They know you." Jason took a deep breath. "My name isn't Christian Mann. It's Jason McLaren." Talia's eyes widened. McLaren? As in McLaren Interstellar? The human corporation that established the first successful trade routes between Earth and the Proximan sector, Cornerman, she finished. "Yes." She stepped back, her turquoise skin paling. "You're not just wealthy. You're the wealthiest human in this sector of the galaxy," he confirmed. "Possibly the most influential, too." Talia's gaze hardened. "So everything was a lie. The talent scout story, the scholarship offer." "Not everything," Jason interrupted, reaching for her hand. She allowed the contact but remained tense. "My interest in you is genuine, Talia. More genuine than anything I've felt in years." Commander Holt cleared his throat. "Sir, the briefing room is prepared." Jason nodded. "We'll be right there." As Holt and his team withdrew, Talia pulled her hand away. "Why the deception? Was this some kind of game to you?" "No," Jason said firmly. "I value my privacy. When I'm recognized as Jason McLaren, people see the wealth, the power, not me. With you, for once, I was just a man." Something in his expression must have conveyed his sincerity, because Talia's posture softened slightly. "And now?" she asked. "Who are you now?" Jason smiled ruefully. "Still just a man, but one with resources that might help us understand what your father and Proxima Prime are planning." He extended his hand again. After a moment's hesitation, she took it. The briefing room resembled a war chamber from ancient Earth, with a large central table displaying holographic projections of data streams and surveillance footage. Commander Holt stood at attention as they entered. "Miss Nex," he acknowledged with a respectful nod. "I'm Commander Holt, head of Mr. McLaren's security division." "The information, Holt," Jason prompted, guiding Talia to a seat. "Yes, sir." Holt activated a series of holograms. "We've analyzed communications between Deputy Minister Nex, Dean Thorax, and known Proxima Prime operatives. They reference something called Project Purification." Talia flinched at the name. "That's a term from Proximan religious extremists. It refers to the removal of corrupting influences from our society. In this case," Holt continued, "the corrupting influence appears to be humanity. We've uncovered evidence that the Galactic Science Academy's Xenobiology Department has been developing a biological agent that targets human DNA." "A weapon," Jason said grimly. "Yes, sir, and based on the communications we've intercepted, they're in the final testing phase." Talia shook her head in disbelief. "My father wouldn't be involved in something like this. He's a diplomat, not a terrorist." Holt projected a recording. Deputy Minister Eldon Nex appeared, his turquoise features, so similar to Talia's, set in a cold expression as he addressed an unseen audience. "The human expansion must be contained," Nex's recorded voice declared. "Their biology, their culture, their very presence threatens the purity of our way of life. Project Purification will ensure that Proxima remains unsullied by human influence." Talia's hands trembled as she watched. That's not the father I know." Jason placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "People can hide their true beliefs, even from those closest to them." "And I was supposed to be part of this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Holt nodded. "Your admission to the Xenobiology program wasn't coincidental. Dean Thorax specifically requested you for the Human Physiology Research Team." "They wanted to use my work to help develop their weapon," Talia realized, horror dawning in her eyes. "And they staged the theft to make me desperate, to ensure I'd accept any opportunity to stay at the academy." "It appears so," Holt confirmed. Talia stood abruptly, pacing the room. "I need to process this." Jason nodded to Holt, who tactfully withdrew, leaving them alone. "I'm sorry," Jason said quietly. "I know this is a lot to take in." Talia turned to him, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "Why did you bring me here? Why show me all this?" You could have just left me behind." Jason moved toward her, drawn by an impulse he couldn't explain. "Because from the moment you asked me to hug you on that street, something changed. I've spent years building walls, protecting myself from genuine connection. Then you crashed right through them." He reached for her, half expecting rejection. Instead, she stepped into his embrace, her body fitting against his as perfectly as it had the night before. "I'm scared," she admitted against his chest, "of what my father's involved in, of what might happen next." "We'll stop them," Jason promised, tilting her face up to his. "Together." Their lips met in a kiss that felt like coming home, a strange thought for a man who owned properties on 12 different planets, yet had never felt truly at ease in any of them. With Talia in his arms, the weight of his responsibilities, his wealth, his power, all of it seemed to fade into the background. When they finally separated, Talia's expression had transformed from despair to determination. "So," she said, a hint of her earlier spirit returning, "what's the plan, Mr. Billionaire?" Talia's communicator chimed with an incoming transmission, startling both her and Jason. The holographic display showed her father's ID. "He's trying to reach me," she said, her voice tight with conflicting emotions. Jason's expression darkened. "It could be a trap. They might be trying to track your location. Or he might be worried about me." Talia's fingers hovered over the accept button. "I need to know why, Jason. I need to hear it from him." After a moment's hesitation, Jason nodded to Holt, who had returned to the briefing room. "Set up a secure relay. Scramble our location." "Yes, sir." Holt's fingers flew over a control panel. "Ready when you are, Miss Nex." Talia took a deep breath and accepted the call. Her father's face appeared, his turquoise features drawn with apparent concern. "Talia, thank the ancestors you're alive. Where are you?" "Somewhere safe," she replied carefully. "Which is more than I can say for the humans you're planning to murder?" Eldon Nex's expression shifted, the mask of paternal concern slipping to reveal calculation. "So, you know, about Project Purification." "Yes. How could you, Father?" "You raised me to believe in peace, in scientific progress." "I raised you to be loyal to your people," he interrupted, his tone hardening. "Humans are a plague, Talia. They arrived in our sector barely 50 years ago, and already they control our trade routes, influence our politics, corrupt our youth with their culture." "Now, that's not true," Talia argued. "They've brought technological advances, medical breakthroughs." "At what cost?" Nex demanded. "Our identity, our autonomy? Look at yourself, daughter. I've seen the surveillance. Consorting with a human male like some common—" "Careful," Jason warned, stepping into view of the hologram. "That's your daughter you're speaking to." Nex's eyes narrowed. "You! I should have known. McLaren himself, not content with economic domination, now seducing the daughters of Proximan officials." "I wasn't seduced," Talia snapped, her skin flushing a deeper blue with anger. "I made my own choices, just as I'm choosing now to stop you." "You can't stop what's already in motion," Nex replied, his voice suddenly calm. "The weapon will be deployed at tomorrow's Interspecies Cooperation Summit. Every human, diplomat, businessman, and cultural attaché will be present, including, I presume, you, McLaren." Jason's face remained impassive, but Talia felt him tense beside her. "Father, please," she pleaded. "This is genocide. You'll start a war." "A war will win," Nex declared. "The weapon targets only human DNA. Once they're eliminated from our sector, the other species will fall in line." "You're delusional," Jason said quietly. "Earth won't stand by while its citizens are slaughtered. They'll retaliate with force you can't imagine." "Let them try," Nex sneered. "By then, we'll have adapted the weapon for Earth's ecosystem." Talia felt sick. "This isn't you, Father. This isn't the man who taught me to value all life." Something flickered in Nex's eyes. Doubt, perhaps, or regret. "It's too late, Talia. The weapon is ready. The deployment teams are in place. It's never too late to do the right thing," she insisted. "Come home," Nex said, his voice softening slightly. "I can protect you when this begins. You're still my daughter." "And you're still my father," Talia replied. "Which is why I have to stop you." She ended the transmission, her hand trembling. "He's really going through with it," she whispered. Jason turned to Holt. The summit begins at 9 a.m. tomorrow. How many humans will be present? Over 300, sir, plus approximately 700 alien diplomats and officials. We need to warn them, Talia said. Jason shook his head. If we create a panic, Proxima Prime might deploy the weapon immediately. We need to neutralize it first. How? Talia asked. We don't even know what form the weapon takes or how it's being delivered. Jason's communicator beeped with an incoming message. He scanned it quickly, his expression grim. Our intelligence team just intercepted communications between Dean Thorax and the summit security chief, a Proximan named Krell. They mentioned atmospheric dispersal systems being installed under the guise of climate control upgrades. Airborne delivery, Talia concluded, her scientific mind racing. If it's designed to target human DNA specifically, it must be a tailored pathogen or nanite swarm. Can you neutralize it? Jason asked. Talia bit her lip. Possibly, but I'd need to analyze a sample first, understand its mechanism. Then we get you a sample, Jason decided, turning to Holt. Prepare a strike team. We infiltrate the Academy Research Facility tonight. As Holt left to make preparations, Jason pulled Talia into a private alcove off the main briefing room. You don't have to do this, he said softly. This isn't your fight. Talia placed her hand against his cheek. It became my fight the moment I asked a stranger for a hug on a city street. The tenderness in her touch ignited something in Jason that transcended desire. For a man accustomed to calculating every move, every relationship in terms of advantage and risk, the pure emotion he felt for Talia was both terrifying and exhilarating. If we survive this, he murmured, drawing her closer, I want to show you Earth, the oceans, the mountains, all of it. I'd like that, she whispered, her lips brushing against his. But first, we have a world to save. Their kiss was different this time. Not the passionate exploration of new territory or the desperate connection of fugitives, but a promise, a declaration of something neither was quite ready to name. When they rejoined the others, both were expressions of steely determination. The night ahead would determine not just their fate, but potentially that of human-alien relations throughout the galaxy. I need to understand exactly what we're facing, Talia said, addressing the assembled security team. My father mentioned the weapon is ready, which means they've completed testing. There must be records, samples in the Academy's xenobiology lab. Then that's where we're going, Jason replied, his hand finding hers. Together. The Galactic Science Academy's research wing loomed like a gleaming sentinel against the night sky. Jason, Talia, and a small team of human operatives approached through the maintenance tunnels, guided by schematics Holt had procured from a sympathetic Luminous City engineer. Security systems disabled, whispered Holt through their encrypted comms. You have a 7-minute window. Jason nodded to his team. Remember, we need samples and data. No casualties unless absolutely necessary. The infiltration proceeded smoothly. Too smoothly, Talia thought, as they reached the xenobiology lab without encountering resistance. The facility appeared deserted, with only emergency lighting illuminating the sterile white surfaces. Something's wrong, she murmured, scanning the lab equipment. This place should be crawling with researchers, especially if they're preparing for tomorrow. Jason signaled his team to secure the perimeter while he accessed a computer terminal. The weapon's not here. According to these logs, all samples were transferred to the summit venue 3 hours ago. A soft hiss of pneumatic doors made them both turn. Deputy Minister Eldon Neck stood in the entrance, alone and unarmed. Hey, Father, Talia gasped. I knew you'd come here, Neck said, his voice weary. You always were thorough in your research. Jason raised his pulse pistol. Where's the weapon, Nex? As you've discovered, it's already at the summit venue. Nex stepped further into the lab, his hands raised to show he carried no weapons. But I haven't come to stop you. I've come to help. Talia moved closer, studying her father's face. Why should we believe you? Because, after our conversation, I reviewed the final test results. Nex's shoulders slumped. The weapon isn't as selective as Thorax claimed. It won't just eliminate humans. It will affect any species with similar DNA markers. The casualty projections, he shook his head. Billions could die, including many Proximans. So you've had a convenient change of heart now that your own people are at risk? Jason's voice was cold. I deserve your suspicion, Nex acknowledged, but Talia doesn't deserve to watch her father become a mass murderer. Talia's eyes filled with tears. You were really going to do it. If the weapon had been perfect, you would have deployed it. I believed I was protecting our way of life, Nex replied, but I was wrong. Hatred has blinded me, blinded all of us in Proxima Prime. Jason's communicator beeped urgently. Sir, Holt's voice crackled, we've been compromised. Academy security forces converging on your position. ETA 2 minutes. We need to move, Jason said, lowering his weapon. Nex, if you're serious about helping, now's the time. Thorax and his team are already at the summit venue, Nex explained quickly. They've installed the dispersal system in the main ventilation hub. It's set to activate during the opening ceremonies at 0930. That's less than 2 hours from now, Talia said, checking her timepiece. A distant alarm began to wail. This way, Nex urged, leading them toward a service exit. My diplomatic credentials can get us into the summit. They barely made it to the exit before Academy's security forces burst into the lab behind them. Jason's team provided covering fire as they escaped into the pre-dawn darkness. My transport is nearby, Nex said, guiding them toward a diplomatic shuttle. As they boarded, Jason pulled Talia aside. Can we trust him? She hesitated, then nodded. Yes, he may have been misguided, but he wouldn't risk my life, and he certainly wouldn't confess to us if he didn't mean to help. The shuttle lifted off, streaking toward the summit venue, a magnificent glass and steel structure at the heart of Lumina City's diplomatic quarter. Dawn was breaking as they landed, casting long shadows across the plaza where dignitaries were already beginning to arrive. We'll never get through the main entrance without raising alarms, Jason observed. Security will be tight. There's a service entrance through the kitchen, Nex suggested. Less scrutiny there. As they approached, 2 Proximan security guards stepped forward to intercept them. Before Jason could react, Nex straightened to his full height, emanating authority. Deputy Minister Nex, he announced. These are my aides. We're conducting a final security sweep. The guards hesitated, then nodded deferentially. Of course, Minister. Proceed. Once inside, Nex led them through service corridors toward the central ventilation hub. Thorax will have guards posted, he warned. Let me handle them, Jason replied, checking his weapon. They turned a corner and found themselves face to face with Dean Thorax himself, flanked by 4 Proxima Prime operatives. Nex? Thorax's multifaceted eyes widened in surprise. What are you doing here? And with a human? His gaze shifted to Talia. And your traitor daughter. It's over, Thorax, Nex declared. I've seen the test results. The weapon will kill our people too. Acceptable losses, Thorax hissed. The human contagion must be purged, whatever the cost. Not today, Jason said, raising his weapon. Chaos erupted as Thorax's guards attacked. Jason moved with surprising speed for a businessman, neutralizing 2 guards with precise shots, while Nex grappled with a third. Talia ducked under a guard's swing and delivered a precise strike to a nerve cluster, a defensive technique from her rural upbringing that Jason hadn't expected. Thorax used the distraction to flee toward the ventilation hub. Talia pursued him, with Jason close behind. They cornered him at the control panel, where a sinister canister was connected to the air system. Step away from the controls, Jason ordered. Thorax laughed, a harsh sound like grinding metal. Too late, human. The sequence is already initiated. Talia rushed to the panel, her scientific training taking over, as she assessed the situation. He's right. The weapon is already in the system. It will disperse in 7 minutes when the ventilation activates for the ceremony. Can you stop it? Jason asked. Not from here, she replied, frantically scanning the controls. But I might be able to neutralize it if I can alter its molecular structure. You'll need this, Nex said, removing a small vial from his pocket. The stabilizing compound. Without it, the weapon breaks down into harmless components. Thorax lunged for the vial, but Jason intercepted him, slamming him against the wall with enough force to crack his exoskeletal plating. Humanity's strength isn't just in our bodies, Jason growled. It's in our determination to survive, to protect those we care about, regardless of species. Talia worked feverishly, injecting the compound into the ventilation system. It's working, she exclaimed as monitoring screens showed the weapon's molecular structure collapsing. The pathogen is neutralizing. Security alarms blared as summit guards, alerted by the commotion, surrounded them with weapons drawn. Stand down, Next commanded, stepping forward. I am Deputy Minister Next Approxima 9. This human and my daughter have just prevented a terrorist attack that would have killed everyone at this summit. Hours later, after explanations and debriefings, Jason and Talia stood on a balcony overlooking the summit hall, where human and alien diplomats mingled peacefully, unaware of how close they had come to catastrophe. What happens now? Talia asked, leaning against Jason's shoulder. Your father will face consequences, but his cooperation will be considered, Jason replied, his arm sliding around her waist. As for Thorax and Proxima Prime, they'll be dismantled. And us? She turned to face him, her gray-blue eyes searching his. Remember when you asked me to pretend to hug you? Jason smiled, drawing her closer. I'm done pretending, Talia, about anything. He reached into his pocket and withdrew a small box. I meant what I said about showing you Earth. McLaren Interstellar is establishing a new xenobiology research center there. They'll need a brilliant director. Talia's eyes widened as he opened the box, revealing a ring that captured the colors of both their worlds, Earth's blue and Proxima's turquoise. Is this a human custom? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. A very old one, Jason confirmed. It means I'm asking you to stay with me. Not just for research, not just for now, but for as long as you want. Humans truly are remarkable, Talia said, her fingers tracing the contours of his face. You face the universe with such courage, such openness, even after what my people tried to do. Not your people, Jason corrected gently. A few extremists. There's a difference. Talia smiled, taking the ring and slipping it onto her finger. Then yes, Jason McLaren. I accept your human custom, all of them. As they sealed their promise with a kiss, the first rays of Lumina's sun bathed them in golden light. A new dawn for them, and perhaps for human-alien relations throughout the galaxy.